Buy a starter home first, then fix it up. I'm gonna lose my shit if one more old person tells me this.
We bought our house in 2011 for $192,000. The current Zillow estimate is $683,000. It's 1,000 square feet, no updates.
And one thing I can guarantee you is that the boomers got the game fucked up per usual, dog. 70 to 80% of these houses are just fucking garbage. 80% of the houses on the market today, I could easily make a case deserve a 150 to 200K discount off the rip.
The housing market is outrageous in 2026, and Gen Z doesn't just need a crash to happen to afford a home. They're praying for one. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at just how bad the housing market has become and why an entire generation is rooting for it to come crashing down. Let's jump right into it.
Buy a starter home first, then fix it up. I'm gonna lose my shit if one more old person tells me this. Like, the average cost of a home, the median cost is 400 grand in the US. Like, there's no such thing as starter homes anymore. The minimum that I'm looking at for a rundown home in a shitty part of town in the suburbs is 500K.
This is a huge issue that comes up when talking to boomers about starter homes. They still think a starter home is anywhere between $125,000 to $250,000. The concept of a starter home being $500,000 is fucking insane. That's not a starter home. That's a home that you're going to be in for a very long time. And on top of that, being $500,000 and requiring work is absurd. So at $500,000, you're still not done spending because you're going to have to pay for all the renovations that the house is definitely going to need because they probably haven't updated it since the fucking 70s. And let me be very clear, renovations aren't always cosmetic. A lot of times it's going to be expensive fixes, something integral, structural, electrical. All of those things cost money, a lot of money. And it's insane that spending $500,000 is not enough. And the renovations don't just cost money. They also cost time. Time that you probably don't have because you're working your ass off trying to pay off the mortgage in the first place. Sorry, I'm getting a little frustrated. When you take a look at the comments, it's brutal. A starter home in my area is literally over $1 million. If I go an hour into the middle of nowhere, maybe I can find a crumbling shack for $500K, but I need to commute an hour each way to any decent paying job. I remember in the early 2000s, if you lived in a $500,000 house, that was a mansion. A $5,000 house now in 2026 is a beat down shack in the middle of nowhere that needs $100,000 worth of renovations. And the roof is about to go. And Gen Z are looking at the prices of these things and they're going, bro, I'm waiting for a crash because ain't no way I'm spending $500,000 and then have to put even more time and money into fixing the house. I'm good, gang. I'll wait till another 2008 happens. Put some skin in the game and then.
This is why millennials and Gen Z are having such a hard time buying a starter home in Pennsylvania in 2026. House is listed at $405,000, which is around the median price for a home right now. And this is what I would consider a starter home in Pennsylvania in 2026. If we take a look at the estimated monthly payment, if you put down $81,000 and have a 720 credit score and above, you're sitting at almost $3,000 a month. How many millennials or Gen Z do you know that can put $81,000 into a home right away and also have a 720 or above in credit score?
At 28 right now, none of my friends have $81,000 laying around. They don't. To put as a down payment, they don't. It's insane that putting almost $100,000 down on a house, you still have almost $3,000 worth of a mortgage a month, not including property taxes or any of the other expenses that she's going to get into.
For the average person, the median income is about $77,000 a year. Now, if we do the math, that breaks up into about $6,400 a month. So that mortgage is basically half of what you're making.
So if you make $77,000 a year, which is about $11,000 more than the US median of what people make in the United States in 2026, half of your income directly to housing, just the mortgage, not accounting for anything else.
Before everything else you pay for every single month. Internet, your phone bill, electric, groceries, car payment, car insurance, medical bills, gas, and everything else you gotta pay for. And just take a look at these property taxes. Meanwhile, the price of this house was about $229,000 in 2018. That is a huge jump. For being realistic here, it just would not be smart for somebody to jump into that, especially if you're trying to get a home yourself. So many people are still living with their parents or they have to live with roommates, and unfortunately, that's just the reality in Pennsylvania.
It's the reality all over the US, especially here in New Jersey, where in Monmouth, you can't even buy a house for anything less than $800,000 to $900,000. Again, that's near the shore, so that's going to be more expensive, but still around the area that I live in, there's houses that cost $1 million easy. Now as Gen Z, you're looking at the street that you grew up on, you can't afford any of the houses on that street. In a decent neighborhood, no way. You're gonna have to live in the middle of nowhere where your commute is gonna be an hour and a half, 2 hours one way, or it's gonna be a crazy fixer-upper. This is just disheartening to see. That house is easily a $150,000 house and people are crazy for buying it at these prices. My first home was extremely similar in 2017 in PA and it was $110K. They're insane asking over $400,000. They're not the only ones. happens. The entire market is inflated. One of the biggest wealth building opportunities in the United States for years, decades in fact, has been homeownership. Now people are just trying to cash in because the economy is shit, and they're trying to get as much money as they can for the pieces of shit that they're selling. I'm not looking at any of these prices thinking, ooh, that's a good deal. I think we're all looking at these prices and be like, I can't wait for 2008 part 2. This next video really highlights how bad it is.
You know it's not sustainable? We bought our house in 2011 for $192,000. The current Zillow estimate is $683,000. It's 1,000 square feet, no updates.
So in 15 years, the cost of that house has increased $500,000 with no renovations, no changes to the property. If anything, the property only needs more work now because they've lived in it for so long. It probably needs some repair done to it. And the first comment is so accurate. The hardest part about being Gen Z is I'm old enough to remember when the McChicken was $1 and now it's $3.50. On top of that, I'll never own a home. It's really disheartening to see that this is where we're at the state of the housing market right now. When it's our time to get some skin in the game, it's never been more unaffordable. And a lot of people are just straight up opting out of it. And I don't blame them, because who wants to pay $500,000 for a fixer-upper? I sure as hell don't. You probably don't either.
You know how weird it is that housing is now in the category of Lamborghinis, yachts, private jets? It's now a luxury item. When we were millennials growing up, most of our friends, their parents owned a house. It was just normal. For the younger folks seeing this who didn't grow up in that era, we never in a million years thought if we got a job, worked our asses off, and saved money that we wouldn't be able to afford a house. It was never a thought. It would even be casual. When you're at dinner or talking, like even years ago, someone's like, yeah, I bought a house. And you're like, oh, cool, where at? Just as if you bought a car. Now it's like, you got a house? What do you do for work? Like now it's like, oh, what, you own a Lamborghini? What do you do for work? How weird.
I would even take it a step further to be like, if somebody has their own apartment where they don't have roommates and they're living on their own without their parents' assistance, you're like, whoa, what do you do for work? Not even just owning a house. Because yeah, owning a house is very impressive, especially if you're Gen Z or millennial, but just having an apartment, because apartments are also very expensive, and living in that apartment on your own without any help, you're like, wow, you must be doing really good for yourself. And it's so sad that that's where it's at, because studio apartments back in the early 2000s used to be like $400, $600. Now, $1,800 in New Jersey, and your kitchen and your bed are connected. There's no separating wall, and that's insane to pay almost $2,000 for something like that. And the fact that we're labeling essential things like housing luxury is hella dystopian. Housing shouldn't be a luxury. It should be a human right that every person is entitled to and should be able to afford. And I think this is just a sign of an economy that has completely failed its younger generation. And let's say at one point you were in a lucky enough position to even be able to afford a house. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that you'll be able to afford or keep up with the cost of that house in the future.
I am selling my house. I'm selling a house that has a very low interest rate, a relatively low mortgage, especially for the area that I live in. I'm not doing this to buy a bigger house. I'm actually doing this. I'm going to choose to go back to renting. It feels crazy. It objectively is crazy. You know, inflation and, you know, we all know how expensive everything is these days, and I will likely never own property for this amount again, but I can't keep up with homeownership. I think when I did this, I assumed that this was the dream. The dream was to own property. No one explained how heavy it is to do it on your own, fix all the things that go wrong and keep up with all the maintenance, just deal with the city that you live in when there are issues, deal with contractors and contractors not showing up, and, you know, all the things that go wrong in an older home and the unexpected costs that come about. I had a $25,000 issue come up last year.
Yeah.
I've had multiple smaller $1,000 issue, new water heater, new furnace, all those things that, you know, are expected with owning an older home. But I just haven't heard of anyone talking kind of about the other side of it and, you know, potentially choosing to give up what is considered the dream of, you know, homeownership.
Because your house doesn't care what the economy looks like or what financial situation or bind you're in. Things are going to go wrong and you have no control over when or if they happen, and they probably will happen. It might happen at the most inconvenient time of your life, like she said, spending 25 grand on just one repair that she probably didn't plan for to happen. The reality is a lot of these houses were built decades ago, and they do need maintenance, and sometimes a roof is going to cost you $50,000. And what are you going to do? Not repair your roof? That's not an option. And usually insurance companies, homeowner insurance companies, will require that you do certain maintenance in a timely manner, or they drop your coverage. And I've seen this happen with a ton of people, and that's something a lot of people don't think about when they think about buying a house. They only think about the positives and not the negatives.
Homeownership is not matching up with my lifestyle right now. I don't want to be doing yard work every day. I don't want to be on the phone constantly when things go wrong. I don't want contractors in and out of my house for days.
Yeah, this is sounding a lot more like a liability than it is an asset. For a lot of people, their time is worth more than their money, and they would just rather not come home and have to deal with additional work outside of their 9 to 5. Homeownership isn't for everyone, and that's all right. People need to stop viewing it as an investment. It's a lifestyle that may not work for everyone.
But buying a house today, crazy.
It is crazy that middle income housing opportunity that existed in, like, let's say the 80s or something feels like erased. The houses that are supposed to be accessible to someone, they're just priced out.
Yeah, for the median income in this country, the median housing price would require 50% of their income. So I think owning a home is good, but a lot of people get into a house that really stretches their budget, and they get in without an emergency fund. And what happens when you own a house? Something happens to your roof, and immediately you're done.
Just screwed. Yeah.
I have to agree where he says a lot of people get into a house that they really can't afford without an emergency fund. Something goes wrong, and then they're house poor. And the cost of living has never been more expensive. Everything is at an all-time high, including housing. So if anything goes wrong on your house and your budget is already stretched thin, you're screwed. And this is why a lot of Gen Z are waiting for the housing market to crash, because if homes became more affordable, they would have a lot more money to play with. Their mortgages would be lower, and they might be able to afford a house. They might be able to actually achieve or realize that American dream. And so much can change in 1 year. It's insane. My mortgage was $702 last year. I did all new siding, new roofs, and a 45-foot wraparound deck. Tax survey came around, bumped up my property tax $1,400-ish, and my mortgage is $889. So this person made improvements, spent money to make improvements to their house. It got reassessed, and now they owe more in property tax because their house is valued more because of the alterations that they make. This person spent their money on their property to improve their property and quality of life, and now they're being penalized with an increased property tax. That feels illegal. And property taxes in New Jersey are diabolical. I do real estate photography and videography. Did $1 million house the other day. Property taxes on that house alone a year, $22,000. That's almost $2,000 a month just to own that house. That is rent on a property you own. Diabolical.
I'm selling my house, and I need you to tell me what's wrong with it, because I don't see it.
Hi Kayla, I know exactly why your $350,000 house is not selling, and it's not because it's only a 2-bed, 1-bath, and 1,000 square feet. You see, the problem is that you have it priced at your break-even point and not what today's market value is. So you bought that house in October 2023 for $335,000.
So let's take a look at this really quick. In December 8th of 2000, this house cost $62,000. In just a 23-year gap, literally almost my lifetime gap, this house 6x'd its value. That's gross.
You overpaid, because that's what everyone did in 2023. But the problem is that it's now 2026 and the housing market hasn't gotten better since you bought. It's actually gotten worse. And you only did a $6,000 down payment with a super high interest rate. So the only thing you've done in the last 3 years is pay that interest. You haven't paid any of the principal. You can't sell it for less than $350,000. But the problem is no one's gonna pay that today. It's been sitting on the market for a month. It's overpriced. You priced it even higher than what you paid in 2023 in a better market. I am so sorry, because this is the reality. This is why we're seeing more foreclosures. This is why I've been seeing literally hundreds and hundreds of short sales this year, and it's not stopping. 2027 is going to be the year of foreclosures. It's going to be the year of short sales. Watch.
So the original video where the girl was selling the house for $350,000, the house was nothing special and it wasn't big, 1,000 square feet. I could literally do this and I would be in the front door and the backyard simultaneously. That's how small the property was. And there's probably so many people in this position. They bought when the market was at an all-time high, interest rates were at an all-time high, and now they're stuck in a house that they're not going to make that money back. If anything, they're taking a loss. Like I said, almost 6x value. Who's going to pay that? Almost $350,000 for 1,000 square feet? Are you crazy? Are you insane? And this is where things start to get really interesting, because for years we've been basically conditioned to believe that if you buy a house and turn it around and sell it, you'll be able to make more money. But what happens when buyers, Gen Z and millennials, finally say, no, your house is too expensive? Because if you're trying to sell a house and already bought another one and you're stretching yourself financially, things can get ugly quickly.
I spent all of 2008 working for a very large bank performing loan modifications on people's home loans so that they could afford their mortgage and keep their homes during that recession. Our national debt during that time was $10.7 trillion. You know what it is today? $37.7 trillion. People's homes are about to go in foreclosure. Y'all are about to see a recession like we have never seen. Not in our lifetimes, anyways. I couldn't do that job today. I couldn't. My heartstrings are a lot thinner now, and I don't think I could make it through that. Those calls were tough, and that was $27 trillion ago.
And that's a rough reality that a lot of people are going to be experiencing. And Gen Z and millennials have zero sympathy for this. They're waiting for this opportunity so that they can scoop up all the inflated houses once they actually come back down to a realistic price.
So we're on the verge of the housing market collapsing again, probably worse than 2007 and 2008. And let me explain something to you. A couple things, actually. My grandparents built this house in 1962. They spent $10,000 on the acre of land. It's waterfront property. And $18,000 to build the house. So it cost them $28,000 to build this house in 1962. I think it was completed in 1964.
And if you look at the price right now, $1,031,800. If they sell this house right now, they could make over $1 million on this property that only cost them $28,000.
In 2007, before the housing market collapsed, then this house was valued at $800,000, and within a year it dropped to $500,000. My dad and my uncles had to sell it because my grandparents had passed away. And now this house is valued $200,000 more than it was the last time that the market collapsed. So this goes to show you that, one, the money supply is inflating and the housing market is in yet another massive bubble, doomed to collapse.
And Gen Z doesn't think it's collapsing fast enough. I swear, the second it crashes, I'm buying effing land, since I screwed up and didn't do it when I was in second grade. Literally, in 2008, I was in like fourth grade. $28K in 1962 to $1 million is crazy. Yeah, insane actually. Diabolical even. Boomers done lost their damn minds. And I agree, boomers are diabolical with it. They're basically closing the door on homeownership behind them, and they're trying to cash in as much as they can. And they don't care if they're screwing over the millennials, the Gen Z, the Gen Xers even. They're getting theirs, they get as much as they can for it, and then retire in luxury.
Listen, bro. I don't know if it's just me, but lately I just been looking at houses because, I'm in a very, very early stages, and I set a broad price range. And one thing I can guarantee you is that the boomers got the game fucked up per usual, dog. Like, fuck the market, bro. 70 to 80% of these houses are just fucking garbage. I'm talking about just looking at them, you know what I'm saying? The size, what comes with them, just the whole package. It's just fucking garbage, bro. 80% of the houses on the market today, I could easily make a case that they deserve a 150 to 200K discount off the rip, bro. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, dog. And the only people that's gonna disagree is the fucking boomers, bro. And a lot of these houses ain't worth a damn, dog. There's no reason that you still seeing houses in the price range of 300 to 400 to 500. Damn, some of them 600K. And the first thing that come to mind is, oh shit, I gotta update the kitchen. I need to update the floors. Oh, I gotta update the bathroom and all this extra shit. I shouldn't be buying a house for that type of price range, and the first thing that come to mind is renovations. I should be able to move all my shit in that house and feel at home. At the very least, I should be worried about planting shit in my yard, putting some trees up, painting some shit on some light work. It's different when you get in a house in the the 100,000 range, $200,000 range, and even still, bro, depending on where you at, you still shouldn't have to worry about renovations in your first year or two when you buying a house in that price range, bro. If you not looking for a fixer-upper, you shouldn't be having fixer-upper thoughts the first time you look at a fucking house. And then the crazy part is, you look at the size of some of these kitchens and some of these houses, bro. They ain't no bigger than the one I got in my apartment now. Half of them, if I sneeze, my back gonna touch the wall. Houses be so close to the neighbors that if I speak, they can smell my breath. This shit is fucking insane, bro. Like, what the fuck is folks even paying for, dog? And like I said, at the very least, I'm getting a nice driveway and a big ass backyard. I want to be able to grill. I want to be able to have folks over, do all the shit that I did when I was growing up in my parents' house. So it ain't no way I'm settling for fucking less. And ain't nobody about to fucking convince me just because location or whatever the fuck that I should. And then these new construction houses, they don't got no type of personality. They just look like a big ass apartment. Like, yo, y'all got this shit fucked up, bro. Y'all need to come out here and try again, bro. Like Aaliyah said, because ain't no fucking way.
Boomers bought their cribs for 3 bottle caps and a handshake, and now they're trying to sell them for millions of dollars, basically making the sale of their home their retirement plan. And that's something that we will never be able to experience in our lifetime.
People need to also understand that a lot of the reason that the foreclosure rate is not higher and isn't at that 2008 level yet is because the banks don't know what to do right now. There are thousands of banks across the US right now that have a foreclosure list so big, they don't know where to start. There have been 228,000 foreclosures in the first 6 months of this year. I want you to sit on that number for a second. That is 250,000 fucking people in this country that were so bad off financially that they lost their homes. With the rate of inflation and the rate at which AI is taking people's jobs, this is only going to get worse. We've reached that level where there's no turning back. This bubble is going to pop. It is just a matter of when.
A banker friend of mine has broken down on me because so many people that are 4, 5, 6 months behind in their mortgage payments, and they literally don't know what to do without declaring insolvency. It's bad, guys. It's really bad. And Gen Z and millennials do not care. They're playing the smallest violin for these banks because honestly, they knew what they were doing. They knew what these prices, nobody was going to be able to afford them. Look around and find out, and these banks are about to find out. The difference between now and 2008 is that our parents were scared of bankruptcy and foreclosure. Our generation doesn't give a fuck. Banks know that. Most of us are rooting for a housing market crash because it seems like the only opportunity that we will ever have at homeownership. And that's what it boils down to. The reason Gen Z and millennials are rooting for this market crash is because that's the only way they see themselves entering the market. If it doesn't, they will never be able to own a home. And that's all I've got for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're a Gen Z or millennials, let me know in the comments down below if you ever think you'll be able to afford a house. And if the market actually does end up crashing, do you see that as an opportunity to get some skin in the game? Again, like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with a fellow Gen Z or millennial that you think might enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.